Welcome to the Sharpe Way, another amazing show tonight, a very special show, a show where I really want to focus, where I usually don't, but these last couple of weeks I've been trying to focus on a very specific group of people, and those are former Bernie supporters. Yes, I am looking for the people who used to support Bernie, who thought that was my guy, and then said, well, the Democratic Party screwed me over, stole my guy for the second time in a row. Yes, second time in a row, the Democratic Party stole your guy. I want to talk to you about Bernie's ideas and concepts and what you actually want and how you're never going to get them from either Biden or Trump, but you can get some of them from the Libertarian Party, that we can actually give you some of the things that you want without all the socialism part. You can still get the stuff you want without the socialism part. It can be done. And I'm going to show you some ways of making it happen. I'm going to walk right down Bernie's ideas and show you libertarian answers to get every single thing that you want. Yes, please like, comment, and share. If you know people who are either lean left or are Bernie supporters or were Bernie supporters and they're mad or unhappy and they want to stay home, don't stay home. I got you. I definitely got you. I'm telling you, let your friends know, like, comment, and share. It does matter, so we can walk down this and show these people that we do have answers. We actually can make things work 100%, giving people what they want without having to increase taxes, without having to have mandates, without adding a socialistic, a blanket over everything. Yes, we can. We can absolutely make that happen 100%. If they can't feel the burn, it's just not sharp enough. Now, last week I covered, I think, 4 different parts of Bernie's platform. And I showed you how you can get every single thing that you Bernie people wanted. And I showed you a way that the Libertarian Party can give you all of those things, again, without the socialism, without the new laws, without more taxes. And guess what? Yeah, I'm still not done. Because if you've noticed his webpage, oh my God, his website, tons of stuff. But I got you on every one. The one I want to talk about now, and this is a very controversial one for many people. I hear this particularly in cities, and even now with people who are concerned or worried about the COVID virus crisis. How in the world are we going to have fair housing for all? It's a big issue. It absolutely is a big issue, right? Yes, Tony, I'm trying to sharpen the burn. Absolutely. It is a big issue. Absolutely. So let me talk about that issue. Housing. First part I want to cover is the idea of inexpensive or affordable housing. It's a big deal. What do most Democrats or Republicans want to do? If you're a Republican, you want to ignore it. If you're a Democrat, you want to put tons of money into it. Okay, I have a better idea. How about instead, we look at all of the public housing that we have right now throughout the entire country. HUD runs almost all of it in some way, shape, or form, has some control over it in some way, shape, or form. HUD, the Housing Urban Development, has some form of control over it. Awesome. Here's the plan. Allow for everyone who's renting to have a chance at ownership. Yeah. Allow all of them to have ownership. Not subsidies, smart guy. I didn't say subsidies. What I said was allow them to have ownership. Now, some people say just give them the deed. I'm not a give them the deed guy, because when you give people things, they tend to, and this is human nature, not respect it much, right? Not respect it very much at all. Instead, give them the opportunity to have a very cheap mortgage. Look, they've been paying rent for a long time. So basically look at the amount of time they've spent, count some of that rent towards what would be, right? What would be the ownership of that apartment or that house, and then give them a good mortgage that now the government will take that cash because the government bought the damn thing, right? So the government gets that cash back. You might say, Larry, now I'm going to give these guys a chance to have a house. The alternative is we pay their rent forever. because some of these people are going to be on public on subsidies, on some form of public assistance. So should they be allowed to put the public assistance towards this? Yes, or whatever other money they make. Let's encourage them to make more money to pay their mortgage, and they will then have ownership. Why does that matter? Okay, not everyone will want that. So you don't allow everyone to do it. So you don't force anyone. You allow people who are in public housing, if they want to purchase it, they can. How much rent they've paid goes towards whatever the value of the place is. Not exactly, but a small percentage would to lower it. All of a sudden now, they start to have ownership. What happens when they have ownership? It covers many things. Number one, it's their home. They now care. Now, if you've rented or been a renter, you know there is a different mindset. I'm not being mean. I'm not trashing renters. You know there is a different mindset. And we need to change that mindset. And it happens naturally without us having to care. But not just that. If you own and other people rent, you start caring about that. One of the biggest issues with housing is gentrification, particularly if you live in a city. Oh, gentrify, gentrify, gentrify. Well, who doesn't like gentrification? Renters. Who likes gentrification? Owners, because your property value goes up. Well, guess what? If now the people there are owners and not renters, one, they don't hate gentrification anymore because their property value is going up. They are gaining. Why is that bad? Not just that, they actually begin to control gentrification because now the people, and most of the people are going to be people of color or poorer people, right? Or immigrants, right? Many times that's the case. Great. You control it. You decide who buys your home or not, or you give it to your cousin or your niece or your nephew or your son or your daughter or your brother. So gentrification becomes tiny. But not just that. Now you get mixed communities because you have some renters and some owners. So now you by default create more diversity without having to have a false quota system. It happens naturally. Larry, how can you say that? It already happened in London. Everything I talked to you about, I have some example of somewhere. Have you ever seen me just pull something out of the air? Never. They tried this in London and it worked. And we can learn from what they did in London, another large, diverse city, right? And do it in any of our cities in the country, any of them. And HUD should be helping to do that for several reasons. While this begins to happen, right? And this isn't the only answer, obviously. But what also happens is local governments decide to force people into building affordable housing. So they have rent problems and rent control and all kind of issues that haven't worked. We've had rent control in New York City for, since World War II, so about 70, 80 years. And the city's so unaffordable. And most of the people in rent controlled, and you know this if you live in New York City, most of them can easily afford it. They just got grandfathered in. It's a scam. For most people, it's a scam. So how do you fix that? End the rent control system. It's a terrible system. We shouldn't have it. It's just unfair. And it keeps people who happen to live there living there longer. It's a scam. Instead, you can use the public housing model and rotate people through it constantly. So you can keep building public housing. But you don't have to call it public housing because if I have to keep doing public housing, if I keep doing that, well, then the government has to keep paying for that. Instead, I have an idea. How about instead we allow sponsorship of the housing? Yeah. Why can't we do that? The local large hotel wants to have people care about the local hotel, the local chain, McDonald's, who cares? Boom. Now all of a sudden, they can help build the housing. Well, why would they build the housing? Why would they spend that money? One, leasing naming rights. We always want advertising, obviously, but something else. It's literally an investment because, again, once the people live there for X amount of time, whether that's 8 years, 5 years, whatever the number is, they can then begin to buy the houses. They can buy their apartments if they want to. So the company puts it in, gets marketing, but literally gets rent. Not too shabby. They're getting rent, right? But on top of that, people eventually start buying. They start buying. They're getting their money back. So the companies are happy to get the marketing because they're actually getting some direct money back from their marketing. What a home run is that? We could rotate that through every city in the United States. Even in rural areas, even in suburbs, the model can function again and again and again. People who are in trouble when it comes to need affordable housing can move through here and gain ownership without, here's the best part, without predatory mortgage lending. Think about that. That's what caused the 2009 crash, right? All of a sudden, that's gone. So no more of the predatory mortgage lending. We don't need it. Not required. All right. That's a good one. I like that. Why is the government involved? Only one reason. Because what the government can do now is government can provide insurance if required or support insurance if required, right? Not just that, government now can use buying power to buy in mass. So the pricing all comes down. Not too bad. Pricing all comes down. And on top of that, if a big business is sponsoring some local in some small town, that big business is not afraid of the small town. It isn't. It's bigger than that. It'll punish them. Tons of lawyers. What are they afraid of? Federal government. Yes, they are. That's why HUD just oversees it. No power, no control, no mandates whatsoever. All it is a centralized hub for info to come in. And on top of that, to assist with buying power to keep the prices down so you can have affordable rents, so you can have affordable housing across the country. No increase in taxes. You actually lower the HUD budget, and now people can get it and keep rotating through. And if you don't want to buy your home, you don't have to. Deals with gentrification, deals with ownership, and gets rid of all the predatory mortgage lending. Gone. I'm not done now. We can still keep moving. Because when it comes to housing, we have another issue. The homeless. It is a massive issue. It's a big problem. And what's happened is the government's only answer has always been the same thing. Throw more money at it. What does more money mean? More money for the homeless problem means two things. One, more shelters. Well, many of the homeless don't want to go into shelters. If you know the homeless population, and it's heavily a veteran population, they don't want to go into shelters. Many of the people actually feel safer on the street than in the shelter. I'm not making this up. Do your own homework. It's true. Not just that. There are a lot of people who, once you're on the street for a certain amount of time, that becomes your norm. You actually don't want a place to stay. You just want a place to shower. That's all you want. You don't want a place to stay. And sometimes not even that. Depends upon where you are and how long you've been out. So what do we wind up doing? Making more shelters that nobody wants to go to. Not nobody. A lot of people don't want to go to. Or the second thing is, I'm not making this up, hotels. Yeah, your taxpayer money is putting homeless people in hotels. I'm not making this up. Absolute fact. Do your own homework. That's what's happening. Why was that a bad idea? Okay, Larry, so what do we do? What's your cool idea? First thing is understanding the homeless problem. As I mentioned, there are a lot of people who literally don't want to go into these places. So what do? Change the building codes. Let HUD change building codes. Allow for tiny houses. And a lot of places you can't do it. The local people stop it. They don't like it. Tiny houses is the answer. One of the reasons why is when someone's been literally on the street for sometimes years, they're accustomed to having small spaces they can control their own. So when you put them into a larger apartment, even a one bedroom, they just live in one area anyway because they're accustomed to it. That's what has become their culture. So give them tiny houses. Same idea. Tiny houses. Not too shabby. You can follow a very simple model in this case because remember, most of the homeless population, they're either working poor or they don't have a job, right? One of those two. Working poor or don't have a job. Either one of those two. They may be on public assistance. They may be on some form. Very simple. You follow a model they have right now in the Bronx. It's an amazing model in the Bronx. What you do is if you go there, you agree to only one thing. You agree to let an administrators there. You agree to let them see how much money that you make. That's the only rule you have. How much money do you make? That's it. And you take 1/3 of that, whatever that is. 1/3. That's their rent. Their rent is 1/3 of whatever they make. So if they make no money, then they pay nothing. They make no money. If they have public assistance and it's $300, they pay $100. They pay 1/3 of whatever, and they're never thrown out, ever. I'll say it again. They're never thrown out because they can't pay. You can pay as much as you want, as long as it's 1/3. Now, what winds up happening? Well, first off, when somebody who's homeless goes into a tiny house, the chances of them getting back on their feet increase tremendously. In a very simple way, they can shower. They have an address. They can get a driver's license. They can begin to get back into the world. Now, this is kind of odd because New York City has a bad homeless problem and treats homeless people terribly. There was actually one way that we talked about. There was I forgot, this is probably under Bloomberg maybe, if I think right. There was a group of people who were coming by and they were doing showers for the homeless, right? Come by, nonprofit, no extra tax money, paying for the homeless. So people come by and they take a shower, right? And have new clothes for them. If you want to get yourself back into your world, back to your family, your support structure, get a job interview. Hard to do that if you haven't showered in 3 weeks and don't have clean clothes. Tough to say, hi, mom, I'm home. Tough to do that. Hi, brother, help me out. Hey, you got a job for me? Tough to do that when you haven't showered. So they had these mobile showers go by with some clothes, and people could do that. New York City shut them down. Parking violation problems. Couldn't do it. Yeah. That's government. What was their answer? Put them in hotels and put them in shelters. That was their answer. But instead, allow them to go to tiny homes and pay 1/3 of whatever they make. Now, what winds up happening, again, this has already happened in the Bronx, already. Here's what happens. As the people begin to get back in action, and some of them will, right? Some people will begin to get jobs. Some people will start to get back into their family. Some will. They will feel connected because once you have the tiny houses, 3 things happen. Number 1, they have a community. Community helps, obviously. But number 2, they start feeling ownership. They've lost that. They start feeling ownership. But number 3, there is a centralized area for help to go. You can keep people who want to help homeless, and there are literally thousands of volunteers who want to help the homeless, specifically veterans, but all homeless. They know where to go. Put your facilities nearby so people can go there who need the help. You can knock on doors. Hey, are you okay? What's going on? What can we do? Community, ownership, and help. You will start to see the homeless will begin to get better. As they get better, that becomes an example, right? I just saw Jane. She just got promoted at the local place. She's making tons of money now. 1/3 of her salary? That's pretty high for a tiny house. Guess what she does? She moves out voluntarily. She decides, I don't want to pay 1/3 anymore. When I was only making $12,000 a year or $9,000 a year or $500 a month or whatever I was making, I didn't mind paying 1/3 for a tiny house. It's fine. Now I'm making $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. I don't want to pay 1/3 of what I'm making for a tiny house. I'm going to get me one of these apartments, or I'm in a home, or I'm going to move into public housing. So 5 years later, I can buy my own home. Literally, we're creating an environment for people to move from homeless to ownership without any extra taxpayer dollars, without any force, without any new laws. None. This system can work. Parts of it have already worked. So homeless and affordable housing together. And all that, if we want to, can be, if we want to, sponsored to bring in extra cash, to lower it even more. Sponsored to lower the costs even more. We lower the costs even more. And what does the government do? Again, right there in the centralized area, the HUD is the hub, right? The federal government is simply a localized place to gather information, to have numbers, all those things. This is the way we can deal with the homeless issue without doing everything else we've tried. Everything else has failed. We tried again. Everything else the government has tried has failed. It's been nothing but a failure. So I hope you can see what I'm trying to achieve. Thank you, RB. We are trying to be good with that. I appreciate that. Yes, thank you. I just watched King Cuomo live earlier, and he said that the states that got hit the hardest from COVID are Democratic states. That's what aren't getting funding. Thoughts? I don't think that's true at all. I think he's just trying to blame somebody. I trust almost nothing he says. He's a bad person who just yelled at people and said, go find jobs. I don't care. He's a bad person. Sonia, I trust virtually nothing he says. So if he said the sky was blue, I think it wasn't blue anymore just because he said it. So anyway, thank you. I'm with you. Don't worry. Surprised I don't get as much coverage. You got to share more, Greg. You got to share everywhere. You got to share. You got to like all those cool things. Absolutely, 100%. So, no, exactly what I'm saying, right? I don't want, you hear me often say this. I'm not a guy who says abolish, abolish, abolish. A lot of people want that. I get it. I'm saying convert. Because as a general rule, when you want human beings to add something, right, to try something new, if it is so divergent from what they're accustomed to, they won't do it without force. And as a libertarian, I'm against force. So I've got to create something that's just good enough for someone to go, oh, okay, let me give it a shot. It's just similar enough, but just radical enough to make that next step. And Greg, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people want to get rid of HUD. I don't want to get rid of HUD. Instead, take away its teeth. So it has no actual control. Make it a centralized place, repository for information. Awesome. That's a coordination piece. All good. But no teeth, no money, no force, none of that. It's a place to go when you're saying, how does this work? And you're a city trying to figure stuff out. Call up HUD. Go on their website. Here's how you do it. As you've known, I've tried my best to create a government in my head, at least. I hope people start agreeing with me. That's much more like the fire department, which is if I need you, I call and you come a running because you're calling me. I'm coming. You're asking for me. I'm there. If you're not asking for me, all I'm doing is saying, here are some great tips for safety. Hey, try this. Good idea. Try these ideas. They're amazing. You take the ones that work for you. HUD can become that. Absolutely. So, yeah. So, yes, I am putting in some real video work. I am going live, give or take 8 times a week, plus I'm on at least 2 or 3 podcasts. Yes, I am working it. So I just make sure you like gentrification. Look, the reality of it is, Ed, if you're an owner, gentrification is a good idea, right? It raises your property value. It's when you're a renter that it hurts. That's when it hurts you. So if we give people the option to be owners, gentrification is no longer an issue. That whole problem, which is a wedge issue, goes away. No, we never seem to get rid of any wedge issues. But all of a sudden, I have an answer? Right, I'm the only guy who can think of an answer. Nobody else can. No, I'm the only guy who wants to get rid of wedge issues. Democrats, Republicans don't want to get rid of those issues because it makes people get angry. They jump one side to the other, and right then and there, they want to keep the wedge issues. And what I'm saying is gentrification, if you allow the individual people who live there to become owners, they actually control it. They can decide not to sell. They can decide to keep their homes. Stop gentrification. Just like that. No force, no laws, not required. Rosemary, why don't you like London? Anyway, it's just one thing about London. It's not everything about London. It's one idea that London had. And here's the most important piece. I want to make sure that we're taking ideas that will work and bring them in. That's the issue. See? Michael knows. Exactly right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Yeah, Gracie, I agree. There's a problem with affordable housing on Long Island. But imagine if you could start this process, right? Begin this process and you would see it begin to happen over time. This is not going to fix it in 5 seconds. The damage has been 70 or 80 years coming. But can it fix it in 2 years? Yes. And I'd rather fix it in 2 years than never. Homelessness is becoming even worse, right? Affordable housing even worse. We've been trying and throwing money and changing rules and regulations and laws literally for 30 years, if not more, that I can remember 30 years, maybe longer. And we still have an affordable housing problem. And we still have it. So there are ways we can fix it. And of course, there's a taxation issue, but we'll deal with that issue. That's another thing. We'll deal with that. That's a whole other issue to deal with. All right, I agree. Not only should no veteran be homeless, nobody should be homeless, Andy, unless they choose to be. And some people do choose to be. I get that. We need to create an environment where less and less people are choosing to be. Most people are not choosing to be homeless, but some people do. I would like to have a system to where basically no one chooses to be homeless. That would be amazing. Yes. I have a plan for homeless families with children, but no one wants to hear it. The crack hotels aren't safe for children. This is true. But again, if we allow people to have tiny houses, now we're rocking and rolling. And that's really the key. Yes, and sometimes, tiny housing communities, they can be really good. They really can. And again, if we know where the homeless people are, they will create their own community, right? And if they require help or assistance, remember, many homeless people, not all, I do not in any way, shape, or form want to paint this as one size fits all. I'm saying percentage-wise, there are a higher percentage of people who have mental illness who are homeless. It's a higher percentage than people who are not homeless. Again, I'm not saying that everyone is that way. Of course not. But percentage, by population, there's a higher percentage of people who have mental illness who are homeless. What does that mean? You can put help right there. Right there. The people who want to service that part of that community know where to go, right? And if that community doesn't want to go to tiny homes, then they can spend their time away from tiny homes where people who have certain mental illnesses may hang out anyway, which now removes people who don't have mental illness and makes it easy to find your targets. Either way, people who want to help that population, they're able to help them. And the people who want to create prettier looks will do that. And they'll gain some pride. And if you notice, many of the people who move into the homeless world, they begin to lose hope. If you know people have been homeless, they begin to lose hope. And when you lose hope, you stop caring. You just stop caring. And of course you don't look pretty. Of course your house doesn't look pretty. Of course your clothes don't look pretty. You've lost hope. Why would you bother? You've lost hope. You're exactly right. 100%. Thank you, Dan. Yes, you do homeless. This is how it works, Dan. I'm trying to create an environment that people like you now know where to go, brother. If you're looking at what people have mental illnesses, you'll know where they are. If you're looking at people who don't, you'll know where they are. Man, you could build a tent, revival right there. Awesome, right? That's the issue, right? I mean, obviously, some people won't want to go. I got it. But if ministry helps someone get their confidence back, if ministry helps somebody to gain their will to live, their hope back, please, whatever it takes to get someone to make that step, I'm in. That's what I'm saying. I'm in. I don't have to have the right answer. People like you, Dan, you know what's going on. You get it. I'm going to set up a system so that you can do what you got to do, so that you can do what you need to do. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Only 4. I wish there were a whole lot more. Yes. So, this is exactly right? As I'm telling you, people, this can get a whole lot better. These ideas absolutely can work. Rural areas, same thing, right? This doesn't have to work only in the cities. It can, but rural areas could work too. Again, if you have a rural area with homeless people, as a general rule, they're very sporadic. They're all over the place. How do you service them? How do you find them? How do you help them? How do you protect them? Hard. But if you create tiny homes, at least now you know you can help them. If there's a crime spree, and crime can easily be in the homeless community because, again, who's helping them? Well, now you can have your local sheriff drive by. You can have the cops in the area if that's appropriate, if they want that. They can create their own security in theory, right? Whatever the case may be. But you now give people a community to care about. And that's the key. Who wants to protect something that they don't care about? If you've lost hope and you don't care, you're not going to protect it. But if you care and you have hope, you protect it. Absolutely. And Maria asked, how's it going to be funded? Of course. Of course it's going to be funded. Not through government. I'm a libertarian. You might be on the wrong Facebook page, right? There's no way I'm going to be talking about funding this through government. Of course not, right? The idea is people are paying 1/3, in the case of the tiny houses, of whatever they make. And what happens is over time it begins to even out because some people make virtually nothing. Some will start making more and more and more. And as they begin to make more, they'll pay more. And the funny part is this happens already, as again, there are already homes like this. People tend to stay longer than they financially should, right? So for the sake of argument, in some area, I'm making this up depending upon the area, a 1-bedroom apartment to rent, for the sake of argument, is $1,000 a month, whatever that might be. I don't know if that's high, is that low, wherever you are. In New York City, it's nothing, probably $2,000, $3,000 for a 1-bedroom in New York City. But I'm saying wherever you are, say it's $1,000. That's what it costs for 1-bedroom to rent in your area. They might wind up paying that amount. If they make $3,000 a month, they got to pay $1,000 for their tiny house. Often they'll stay, and they'll stay for 2 reasons. They'll stay because it's their community, and they feel more comfortable there. So they'd rather pay the extra money to be in a community that they understand. It's better. Second piece is they want to help. If they see themselves start moving up, right? Think about it, if you were homeless and now you're making 36 grand a year, you're doing damn good. Good on you. I hope everyone can do that. That's good on you. When the people around you go, how the hell did Maria do that? Maybe she can help me. You become a mentor. And you see this in many poor communities. People who become mentors will sometimes stay. You see it also in these types of communities also. So they will often stay. But not just that. Again, you're going to have what HUD does. HUD assists with insurance, bulk purchasing and buying, and then punishing those people who are sponsors who would commit fraud, right? Because we will sponsor this, right? It could be the 3M or the Kellogg's or the Colgate Palmolive, tiny housing park, whatever, that kind of thing. So that's how you would pay for it without having to use government to do anything except, again, be that centralized hub. And that's it. How do you combat overcrowdedness and possible ghetto living? We have that now, Luis. That's now. It's like saying, how do you combat breathing? We breathe now. That's what it is now. So how do you stop that? By having tiny houses and having them inspected like any other home. Same inspection, doesn't change, but now you accept tiny houses. You still inspect them as you would inspect any home in any way, shape, or form, of course. Absolutely. It's like any other neighborhood. How do you stop overcrowdedness in regular neighborhoods? Same, no change. People who are currently homeless is just where they live. They're still people. They're still humans. They're the same as us. Same issue. Again, a higher percentage have mental illness. But even people with mental illness, you're still a human, a person like anybody else. Same way. No difference whatsoever. Yes. And yes, people are often overwhelmed. Very true. It is a big issue. And I think we can fix it. Again, the point I'm saying is, this would help them get back into the right world. Would some of it fail? Yeah. It would fail sometimes. It's failing completely now. Some of this would fail. Some people, it wouldn't work. I got it. But at least now I have a way of getting people to thrive, to grow, to get back into society, and many will take it. I'll save as many as I can without having to go back to the old ways of making things, horrible. Right? Exactly. So I'm not saying I'd want tiny homes to be mortgaged. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure about that. So that's a good point. I don't know. I think I'd rather use the tiny homes as a way of rotating through homeless and having them kind of graduate from tiny homes when they feel appropriate to graduate from tiny homes. Would some people pay 1/3 of their income forever in a tiny home? I think some would. And if I have a choice of having somebody spend the rest of their life in a tiny home, paying 1/3 of their income, but living like a regular human being and having pride in their place and having their ownership and having independent living versus living in the woods or in a cardboard box or under a bridge, I'll take tiny homes. I'll take it. I will take tiny homes. And hopefully like Dan will come by and give the guy some hope. And hopefully that guy or gal will pack up and take off, right? I agree. Yes, Angela, we need to just throw money at the problem. We should. I take everything back, Angela. You are correct. Let's just throw money at it. It's been working so well for so many years. So, all right. I hope that that was kind of clear, right? Thank you, Sharon. Yes, at the beach. Bungalows. Yeah, a lot of people have their own place and land. Look at that. Ownership. Yes, ownership is everything. Once you have an ownership mindset, things will begin to change. That's just kind of how it works, right? That's kind of how it works. Homeless people are one of my niches. I don't know. I don't know what's the percentage of homeless people who vote. Maybe. I don't know. But again, this is funny. Shelley brings up a valid point. I will take on issues that don't affect me. I will take on issues that actually don't help me when it comes to running for office. Why? Because they're right. That's the issue. They're right. Many of you know I took on the fathers' rights movement, right? Most of the fathers who've been beaten up by family court, they can't donate to me. They don't have any money. Their money's gone to either the lawyers or it's gone to their family. They don't have any money. They can't give me money. And sadly, many of them are also felons. And a lot of them can't vote by percentage. They can't vote. Not the smartest group of people to look to, which is why politicians don't. Because of that. I do. I look anyway because it's right. I want families to be as whole as they can be. I want children to have as much of their parents as they can possibly have. I want people to be as happy as they can be. I want the homeless to be as happy as they can be. That's the goal, right? That absolutely is the goal. Yes. And of course, counselors, yes, people who want, absolutely. I mean, that's really, really the issue. So I'm glad that, Kelly, you like this. It's all about hope and dignity. Yes, absolutely. We've got to turn this around so that the government is not stopping, but instead helping people. Hope Dealers, BTC. I'm going to look at that. If I can, I will work on that piece. All right. I want to move, if I could, to another piece that they talk about often, and that is veterans. Again, on Bernie, I'm going down Bernie, right? People who love Bernie, they want to care about affordable housing. I covered affordable housing and homelessness in one thing. And at no point was there any extra taxes. At no point was there force. And in each case, an environment where people begin to move forward. Absolutely. Second piece now is veterans. Sadly, veterans overlap with homeless. There are a lot of homeless veterans. So some of this will be taken up by the homeless and affordable housing issue. That's part of it. But not just that. The VA. The VA is a disaster. And I talk often about things like, I don't want to abolish things. Boy, is the VA close on my abolishment. I've often said I want to blow it up figuratively, not literally, figuratively blow it up and restart it. Here's what I'd rather the VA become. Very simple. Turn the VA, the Veterans Administration, away from the hospitals, all of that, and turn it into one thing only, an insurance company. That's it. Turn it into an insurance company. Let veterans go where they want to go. They don't have to go to VA doctors. They go wherever they want, insurance company. This goes back to my health insurance plan, as I brought up early. It's basically the equivalent, right? The VA will become the equivalent of a type of Medicare, a type of Medicaid style. Go to that instead. A whole lot cheaper. It can create its own insurance if it wants to. It can go back to the a percentage of income. It could do that, whatever the case may be. We can shift into that, move it into privatized eventually, right? That's one part of the hospital system. So the hospital goes away. Instead, here's your card. You get X $1,000, per year, whatever that is. And that could even accumulate over the years. You can use it for healthcare, especially a healthcare debit card. That's what the VA becomes. Healthcare debit card for the VA. Veterans who need help can use that instead. A whole lot better. Funds are spent better. They can add it up over time. Nothing but good. And then if they lose that, they can go to whatever other insurance or Medicaid and Medicare they have. They can do that through every single year. Changes everything. They can now just go to a good doctor. You don't have to drive 6 miles and go through paperwork and lose this and lose that and everything else. Instead, make an insurance plan. A whole lot easier. That's step one. But the second piece. One of the biggest issues with the VA, obviously, is the healthcare. Mental health care. Huge issue. For those of you who don't know, about 100 Americans per day commit suicide. Prior to COVID, there will be more now since this horrible shutdown. There'll be more. But prior to that, about 100. And out of the 100, about 22 were veterans. Veterans are less than 10% of our population, and they're over 20% of our suicides. VA is not working. Health is not working. It isn't. One of the things we're having, the problems we're having is they're having trouble coming back and integrating, right? It's a problem. So I want a chunk of the VA to be owned by veterans. I'm not joking. Same concept of the tiny houses, same concept of the public housing idea. Give veterans who come out an opportunity to literally buy in to the VA mental health care unit. Why? Vets help vets. You know this. If you had a problem, whatever your problem is, mental, physical, social, financial, whatever it is, the person who can help you most is the person who's had your problem, right? Whatever your problem is, the person who's had that problem, they kind of know what you're going through. Why? They've had that problem. So who better to help vets with all kind of mental issues that veterans deal with than veterans who've had those issues? Number one thing, we see it in our prison population. We see it in our veteran population. We see it all over the place. We see it in our addiction population. We see it everywhere. So why not allow veterans to have some ownership in this medical healthcare system that comes out of the VA, so that they can be the ones who jump in and help. They're the ones who are going to know what's going on, but there's something else here. If those of you know, in the past, I haven't done it recently. I've been too busy, and I know it's a BS excuse. I know. I accept it's a BS excuse. I've not been helping veterans as much as I should have been. I've been doing this stuff. Shame on me. I accept responsibility for that. But in the past, I used to spend a lot of time helping out vets. It's how I know some of these things, right? And I remember one time, a unit was coming back. I think it was from Afghanistan. They were actually a reserve unit. I think they were coming back from Afghanistan, if I'm mistaken. I was working, was it the Yellow Ribbon Fund or one of those funds? I forgot which one it was. It may not have been them. I've forgotten. I've worked for many of them. So whatever the fund was, I was working for them for free. I never got paid. I did it for free. And I would go and I would train them how to network for jobs, and how to find jobs and write resumes and do interviewing skills, which many of them are terrible at. Now, this was a reserve unit. They were coming back and going back to work. Many of them had lost their jobs. Jobs didn't exist anymore, right? When they came back, didn't happen anymore. And one of the leaders of the unit was like, God damn it, these guys aren't going to your classes. And he yelled this. He goes, 9 months from now, half of these assholes are going to be homeless. Now, he was exaggerating, obviously, but he was an Army guy who was mad and young soldier. I get it. He just felt so emotionally about it that he yelled that. And I said, I went to the person who was part of the fund. I said, you have to tell these guys they have to show up to my class. She goes, oh, we can't do that. I said, no. You have to tell them to show up in my class. You got to tell them that. You have to order them. Oh, we can't do that. We're not military. And finally, I yelled at the first sergeant, like, tell them to come. They have to come. He goes, you're right. So he orders them, the captain. So the captain ordered them to go to the class. They all went. You might say, Larry, it's terrible. Why would you do that? Why would you order these people to go? Because they all wanted to go, but they needed an excuse to go. They just came back from Afghanistan. 15 months or whatever it was. I forgot how long the tour was. I think it was 15-month tour. These guys are badasses. Just telling you the truth. They're badasses. Fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. They're badass. Combat vets. They come back. They don't want help. I'm not too tough for that. Tough guy. I need that help. Now the captain orders you. They show up. What's their excuse? Well, I wouldn't be here, but the captain ordered me. So that's why I'm here. And they're taking notes and joining in and can't wait to grab. Why? Because vets know vets. The amount of time that I've ordered vets to do things, and to be clear, I have no authority over them whatsoever. None. They can tell me to go take a hike whenever they want. I have zero authority, but I will give them instructions. You will do this now. Do you understand the order I've given you? I will say those words. Do you understand the order I've given you? I will give them that. I have no authority at all. None. I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. Some of these guys are gunnies. They're higher ranked than I am. And I will order them. And all it does is to a vet is give them an excuse to say, okay, I'll do it only because I'm ordered. I wouldn't anyway because I'm a tough guy. That may seem funny and odd to someone who's not a veteran. If you're a veteran, I'm sure you get that if you're a veteran. But if you're not a veteran, you may not get that. You don't have to get that. The VA should be run by vets. Vets get it. Vets should have some ownership in it. People come back, gives them purpose. If you've known people who've had problems, brain injuries, PTSD, the problem with so many vets is, the veterans who have physical illnesses, physical problems and disabilities, they're actually easier to deal with because you can see them. It's the things you can't see. It's the invisible things that you can't see. That's so horrible, right? But people who look and they can see. They, to the average non-vet, particularly non-combat vet, particularly, they can't see them. If you're a combat vet, you can see it. I'm not a combat vet. I've never said I am. I was in during the first Gulf War. I didn't see any combat. The war was over in 5 seconds. My unit never went. So, but being around vets, you begin to understand them also. So give the vets a little bit of ownership in that mental health piece, and you will see the VA get better. That's the goal. See them get better if you give them ownership, and that's how you can rely on them, right? You want the VA to be a insurance program and a mental health co-op, basically, a mental health co-op to assist veterans, and you will see that our veterans will be serviced a whole lot better. I mean, just so much better. All right, if I can grab some of these, if I could. Yes, please listen to Larry. Brendan's right. Absolutely. Yes. I don't understand why the vets haven't had the same enlightenments as the elderly. Good idea. Oh, entitlements. Oh, I see. Entitlements. Yes. No, I think we want vets to help vets, right? I think we do. I love this, Ken. You and I talked about this. I remember this when we talked. Was that Pennsylvania? I think we talked, Ken, about this idea of putting them on it. Not a bad deal, but I don't want to punish anybody. So I'd rather just make it, make an insurance company. You know what? Actually, never mind. Make an insurance company and maybe put the Congress members on it. You're right. They'd make it better. Good point. Good point. So, all right, if I can grab some. Shelly, what are you just trying to give me niches? Traumatic brain injury is my niche? I don't know. I would hope vets would hear me. I really would, right? I would hope they would, right? So, Kevin, I think this is a valid point. If you've noticed, Kevin's saying that government programs are substandard compared to the private sector. Often they are. But the problem is they're a monopoly. So there's nothing else you can do. But if you simply make the VA an insurance company, and to Ken's idea, put the Congress people on it, it will have to get better or people will go someplace else, right? I'm always trying to break the monopoly of government to create other options so that either the government gets better, that's option one, I'm fine with that, or the government becomes irrelevant because the private sector has picked up so much of it. So I think either of them can work. If you do it right, I think you will see that work. So if I can find some more. The VA only hires civilians. They only hire vets to the VA to be porters. Ouch. God, I hope that's not true. But I have seen many fewer veterans hired there. But again, that's why we give them ownership, man. So veterans have some ownership in it, right? Again, giving them purpose. There are many reasons why veterans struggle when they come back, right? Many reasons. One of them is many of them find a lack of purpose. They don't have a reason, right? I remember dealing with one vet, and I was trying to get this guy to talk about success stories, right? So he can talk about success stories while he's in an interview to get a job, right? And if you know veterans, many of them are crazy humble. They don't want to say what they've done, particularly the combat vets who've seen some really serious stuff. Many of them don't want to talk about it, don't want to say the things they've done. Well, how can an employer understand what's happened, right? How can an employer understand? And then how do you phrase that effectively? I remember there was one woman, young, maybe soldier, Marine, I actually forgot which one. She's in front of me and we're doing a role play. And the first thing she says is, and I say, well, how about a success story? She goes, well, my first firefight, I was like, stop. The person you're in front of is a 27-year-old HR person who spent 6 years getting a degree in liberal arts, has no idea what a firefight even is, and you're going to start like that? You've just told that person, I don't belong here. So I have to help people to change the shift. So one of the things I had to have him do is, I was fighting this guy about, how to give me a success story. This other guy, he was a Marine. He was doing Overwatch in Iraq. For those of you who might know what Overwatch is, it's basically people watching over a convoy or area where troops go or where convoys go, and they're literally checking to make sure that there are no IEDs, there's no ambushes. That's kind of their job, to overwatch the area. He had, I think, a 3 or 6 month tour, whatever that was. I don't remember the time his tour was, but his Overwatch tour, he was 100%. They found every IED, disarmed every IED, nothing went off, no ambushes, nobody died. And I thought, do you know how many civilian people would love to have 100% success rate in anything? And in his eyes, what he said was, just doing my job. Just doing my job. That's veterans. We got to work on that. We need veterans talking to veterans. Absolutely. Yes, please take everything, Tim. Take it all, Tim. Take all my ideas. Take everything. Take every single thing I talk about. Please take them all. Yes. Thank you, Linda. I'm glad you are a VA employee. I hope you see. Here's the funny part about the VA. People slam the VA all the time. It isn't the VA's fault, the employee's fault. There are gems in the VA system. But I'm sure Linda would agree, most of those gems, they're fighting the system to be good. They're getting around the system. They're shifting to be as good as they can. I see it. I don't want you fighting, Linda. I want you to just be good. I don't want to have a system that slows you down at all. So yeah. All right. God, you keep talking about taxation. I'm talking about people talking about taxation. I'm talking about the Bernie bros and trying to show how we can get what the Bernie bros want without having to go to socialism, without having to make those mandates and forcing people and extra taxes. Not required. All right. The next piece I want to go to, if I can, is criminal justice. Now, to be clear, I'm going right down Bernie's list. Criminal justice. Let me tell you about one thing where Libertarian Party and Bernie match almost 100%. And it is very rare that Libertarians and Bernie match 100%. This is one of those rare times. This is one of those rare times. Criminal justice is where we are almost, right now, I'm literally going to go to his website real fast and talk about end private prisons, detention centers, cash bail, make jail communication, reentry, diversion programs. Yes, yes, yes. If you are a Bernie supporter and you're watching now, if you're a Bernie supporter and you're watching now and you're saying to yourself, you know what? I'm not sure. Criminal justice is my number one issue. I got you right here. We're done. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 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 100%. Still not done. Due process. Yes. Cut the prison population. End mass incarceration. Yes. End death penalty. No three-strike laws. No mandatory minimums. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'm giving you guys, the perfect storm. It is rare that libertarians match directly with Bernie supporters. This is the one on the money. If you care about criminal justice and you are a Bernie supporter, I got you. Simpatico. We are exactly the same. Transform policing communities. Yes. End the war on drugs by legalizing marijuana. Yes. You asked about cannabis? Yes. Immediately, day one, in the White House, take cannabis off the Schedule 1 list. Done. Get it off. Let this happen. This is one of the things that we are just right there. End police force. They want mental health issues. The police are meant to enforce the law, not deal with mental health. You are punishing police, right? And then police deal with homelessness. Yes, police aren't supposed to be homeless experts. That's why we have a homelessness plan. So police can do what I want them to do. Be cops. Protect people. Stop people from being hurt. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be for. And I got a feeling most cops probably want to do that. That's why they became cops. Absolutely. Right. Prisoner right bill. Of course. Why not? Right. And when they get out, give them their rights back once they've served their term. Yes, absolutely. Right. End cycles of violence. Yes. Boom. Ensure accountability, oversight. Yes. No facial recognition software. Yes. I went right down. Literally, I just read off of his page. When it comes to criminal justice, guys, if you are a Bernie supporter and criminal justice is your number one issue, you need to vote Libertarian. You get exactly what you want when it comes to criminal justice. You get exactly what you want when it comes to criminal justice, guys. If you are a Bernie supporter, there's no other place to go but here, right? If you're looking for someone else, no way, guys. Absolutely no way. All right. So I hope that was clear. And yes, very often libertarians will match up on the civil liberties side. Very often that's true. I completely get it. In many cases, I think that's true. So yeah. And prohibition, yeah. The war on drugs, we lost that war. Drugs won. Absolutely. So I want to move past that if I could. And I want to head to something else to talk about. And that is free childcare and free pre-K. This is a big deal for a lot of Bernie supporters. It really matters to them. They care about free childcare and free pre-K. And I get it, right? You want to make sure that your children are taken care of. You want to make sure that people can go to work when they need to go to work, particularly if you in divorced, single parent, insert probably one of you lost your job because of this government shutdown. And yeah, I get it. It makes total sense. So let me see if I can get around this piece. The first piece, when it comes to free childcare and free pre-K, number one, this covers all education. So it kind of overlaps, right? It's not just one thing. In the Bernie world, it's one thing because it's just funding. It's just write a check, make it happen. Write a check, make it happen. The problem is with the economy being shut down the way it is and the massive amount of debt that's going to occur, the massive amount of economic damage that is going to just devastate us, there's not going to be any more money for this. It's just not going to happen, Bernie Bros. I love you. It's not going to happen. So how in the world do you still get childcare and pre-K? Can I give you free childcare and free pre-K? Maybe not. What I can give you is better and cheaper and safer childcare and pre-K. That I can give you. And for some of you, that will equal free. And for some of you, it won't. Number one, I have to get the DOE out, Department of Education, out of working, out of being an aggressive agency. The DOE right now, if you don't DOE, the Department of Education, prior to 1980, the Department of Education existed, but it was basically a repository for information. Basically what it was, repository for information, which again, you guys know, that's been our culture. I don't mind the government existing as a repository for information or a centralized hub for communication. Fine. I just don't want it raising taxes. I don't want it giving out money so it has control. I don't want it having teeth, setting regulations. That's my problem. But if you want to keep it as a centralized hub for information or communication, I'm okay with that. DOE should become that. DOE also should not have any mandatory statewide standardized testing until high school. None. Not until high school. All the other ones should not exist. No need for it. Why? Think about this. We've had an active DOE since 1980. Anybody here who's my age or older, you went to school before 1980, before there was an active DOE. Somehow you learned how to read and write. I did. Somehow you learned how to do basic math. I did. Somehow you learn how to function in society, make money, get a job, have a family, function. I did. Americans did for literally hundreds of years prior to having an active DOE. I would ask anybody, has education gotten better since 1980? Since standardized testing? Since all those things? No. No Child Left Behind was a disaster. All those things are disasters. So how about let's not do that? Instead, let's remove that and turn it instead into, again, a repository, a place where people who are looking to learn to do things can go to and either purchase and or rent, however they want to do it, to do that. But not just that. We push this down to state level also. Right now, you have childcare or something like that, whatever the case may be, right? It's regulated by the state, if not by the federal government, by how it gives grants, what you must do and must not do. We don't have to end that. But instead say those are guidelines. But if you don't want to do that, you can have licensed childcare. That's one thing, or certified childcare. But you can also have what's called child gardens. A child garden is very simple. It allows nonprofit organizations to take your children on a voluntary basis. That's it. They can, on a voluntary basis, take your child. Wait a minute, Larry, that's crazy. What? Oh my God, what happens? Well, I'll ask you a question. I have children. If you have children, if you came to me and said, Larry, are you heading to the park? I am. Well, not now I can't because I'll get called on by my neighbors. I live in Queens. But assuming that I can get out of my home at one point, I'll go to the park. And you go, Larry, take my kid. Do you mind? No, I'm fine. Take your kid. We both go to the park. We have a great time. We come back. My kids play with your kids. And then we go. What's wrong with that? I don't need a license or anything like that. No, you and I am in agreement. Swap out me for a local church. Swap out me for a VFW, a Knights of Columbus, a American Legion, insert thing here. Swap it off for something like that. If you want to, it is voluntary. You may drop your child off at one of these places. These places can, if they want to, as nonprofits, get data, information, and or other things from the DOE to learn how to do things like follow childcare rules if they want to, right? And or teach pre-K if they want to. Why not? Teach whatever they want. They can do that if they want to. Now, what will they charge you? Whatever they want to charge you. And you decide. It's voluntary. It doesn't get rid of licensed childcare. It's there. If you go, Larry, I don't trust my local church. I don't trust my local VFW. I want to go to a certified, childcare facility. Good on you. Your money, your kid, do what you feel is appropriate for your child. But if you go, Larry, no. I know my pastor. He's a good guy. I go to church every Sunday. I like him. He's a good guy. I know his family. I don't mind dropping my kid off in the morning, for pre-K, for 3 hours of pre-K, or whatever the case may be, or whatever. If you look back in our history, for many years, churches had pre-K. They had Sunday schools. Some still do, but they had pre-K. They had daycare. They were regulated out of business. Gone. You allow this to happen, you will find communities going to do this. How do I know that? It's happening now with people having to stay home. They're doing it virtually, but they're figuring this out. They're going online. They're asking people, hey, how do I do this? How do I get that? But imagine again, if government becomes the centralized hub, I don't have to scour the internet anymore. I can just go to the DOE website and that's everything I need. You care about this, you care about that, and they'll have everything. It's a centralized hub, right? Maybe you want a religious curriculum. You can have it. Maybe you want a secular curriculum. You can have it. Have whatever it is. That's how it works. And you might say, well, wait a minute, Larry. Sounds good, but do I really want just the DOE to be one thing? No. How about instead you also allow private companies to do so also? Absolutely. They can if they want to also, right? You might say, well, Larry, who's going to pay for all of that? Who pays for it now? Some people write a check or give a credit card and pay a monthly subscription. Some people do. And some people get sponsors. That's how it works. Could you imagine if you had something like, for example, you've seen like the windows or whatever you might have, you pay your fee and you get enough for 5 people. They'll create those things. Of course they would. Of course they would. Could you imagine if you can create, if I could, have my own pre-K in my home, and I could, if I wanted to, if it's a nonprofit, right? Nonprofit situation. So it's a nonprofit issue. It's a VFW. It's a local church. And you can do 3 hours of pre-K, 5 different machines, whatever it is, 5 different computers. And you pay $5 a month for 5 licenses. You could charge the people literally $5 a week. And you could do that. Or whatever. My point is using this system and allowing people to do this. You would find people doing it happily. How do I know? It's happening now. We're already doing it. If we start opening this up, you will have local people create their own pre-K, their own childcare cheaper. Now you might say, but Larry, what about the people who want to go to a licensed childcare facility or a licensed pre-K? Go. Those don't go away. But the person who can't afford that isn't going there now. They're not going there now. So how about instead give that person an option? But Larry, some people can't afford $5. Yes, you can. I'm sorry. Yes, you can. You can afford $5 a month for your kid. You spend it on anything. You got a cell phone, your nails are done. You'll be fine. You can drop $5 on your kid, right? Childcare can be $500 a month for a kid. I'm saying $5 for a kid. You can do that. You can, look, if you can't afford $5 for a kid, you don't have an address, in which case you're in one of them tiny houses. So, and we can cover that separately. So my point is, you could make this happen. It could be done. It absolutely could be done. It allows for nonprofit centers to pick up. It allows for communities to support. It allows for homeschooling to be supported. And you could actually lower taxes. You could lower taxes. As more people start going to these systems, you could actually lower taxes. Not just that. If to be a pre-K or to be a childcare facility, and if you've seen any of them, the rules and regulations on them are insane. How do you know that? They're going away and they're expensive, which means people won't do it. They'll go to other places. They'll have to change. And they'll decide to not follow those regulations. They'll change different regulations. But Larry, I can't go there. They won't have background checks. Tell them to have background checks. Nothing's stopping them. They don't want to do it. Don't go there. It's voluntary. Note every single thing I've said today. Voluntary, no extra taxes. No extra taxes and voluntary. Giving you what you want. Getting cheap, solid, safe childcare. Cheap, solid, safe pre-K. For everyone who wants it. Go go to the regular stuff that exists, or instead go to another idea that you can pick and you can choose that will do the most important thing: support community. Note what I keep talking about. I'm trying to empower community. I want to rethink government and empower community, because here's the reality, and many of us have to accept this is true. Whenever you add government, you remove community. I can't just remove government. It doesn't work that way. I leave a massive hole. So instead, why don't we encourage community to pick it up? Pick it up. You'll see it happening now because government's failing us horribly right now. What's happening? Community stepping up, and they will. Allow them to. Note the first thing we do when we have a crisis: start suspending laws. Yeah. We start suspending regulations. Yeah. How about we suspend them in the goddamn first place so next time when something happens, we can just respond? Yeah. This is what I'm trying to achieve. And you Bernie bros, we can absolutely do it. It totally can work. All right. Yes, indeed, enlightenment does lead to libertarianism. It tends to, because once you realize that you don't want to use force, you want to create better environments, you can't really look at the left and right paradigm anymore, right? You can't. Personally, you can, right? The individual can be more conservative or more liberal. Who cares? As long as the issue is they don't want to force their way on others, right? I was talking about the pre-K. You might want a religious curriculum for your child. Maybe you're more conservative and you want a more conservative religious Christian curriculum. Okay, just teach your kid. I don't care how your kid learns 2 + 2, whatever. Or, no, I'm secular, no religion. Okay, do that one. As long as you're not forcing your views on others, we're good. We are totally good. Yes. Try saying that rights don't end where your fear begins. It's an interesting role reversal that seems to get through to some people. Sometimes, but generally speaking, people don't care about rights. I know that sounds horrible. I know. It's just damn true. It is very rare to talk about unless I say everybody's rights. Absolutely. So I like to see our public schools have to work with their communities rather than administrators of the state. Oh my God, Robert, you are so right. For most of our schools, and you may not realize this, you realize this. Other people watching may not realize this. For most of our school systems, the customer isn't your kid. And the customer isn't even you. The customer is the government administrator who makes sure you checked every box so you can get your federal funding. That's the customer. The customer is not you. That you're in the way. Your kid's in the way. That's why they push your kid through the grades and shove your kid off into a college that he or she shouldn't be going to. That's why they push your kid forward when he or she can't read. Because you're in the way. I'm not kidding. Why do you think there's so much teacher burnout? Teacher burnout, particularly in New York State, but throughout the country, terrible. I've met a whole lot of people in the private sector who are former teachers. I mean a lot. The best teachers very often get burned out. They surrender and go, you know what? Forget it. I can only do what I can do. And they do the best they can in a horrible, broken system. 100% true. The customer should be you. Should absolutely not be the government. And right now, it is. So, yes. All right. I love the idea of ending the payroll tax. I do. My worry is, again, when you begin to end the payroll tax, you have to have an answer for people who are going to say, how do we build the roads? But when we have those answers, and we do, then we do it. So we want to find other ways of funding these things, which I hope you see. I have come up with many ideas on how to fund these things so we can still do this. All right. It's because I think spending money is the only form of activism. Yes. Lyndon, yes. That's exactly correct. Watch the people on the news talk about fixing things. The only thing they ever say is, how do we fund? How do we find revenue? How do we invest? Revenue, fund, invest. Taxes. Their very nice way of saying it, taxes. Whenever a government official says that, fund, invest, revenue, taxes. That's all it means. And that's our goal. That's their goal. We have to change that. We have to absolutely change that. There we go. Yes, when an NFL team builds a stadium, who puts name on it? The biggest sponsor. Why not this program brought to you by the bike path funded by? Yes, we already have that. We have Adopt the Highway programs. We already have it. Already exists. Yes, 100%, Ryan. We could do it for anything. We do it for the school system. We could do it for individual schools. We could do it for the tiny homes we talked about. We can do it for public housing. Of course. If you see what's happening in today's world particularly, where are companies spending their money? They don't know. They don't know what works yet because things are changing so much. Kids aren't watching TV that they used to. They're watching YouTube or they're watching TikToks or they're walking outside. Well, now they can't because the Gestapo will stop you. But when this is over, they'll be walking outside. What will they see? Are they going to watch sports? What are they going to watch? These are companies, many of them like 3M and Colgate, Palmolive. These companies, Verizon, they spend literally billions with a B, billions of dollars on marketing. Billions. You tell me they won't drop $100 million on a bridge or a stadium or a school system or a housing project? Of course they would. Absolutely. What if you could put whatever, Colgate Palmolive on a housing project and then do a documentary on how you built it and put it on Netflix? You tell me they wouldn't build that thing for that and then still collect rents afterwards and then when people buy it, get that money? They'd be standing in line to do it, Ryan. Standing in line to do it. Of course they would. Of course they would. All right. I've spent the last 3 days teaching basic math to high school graduate. Yeah. He tells them that they just let them use calculators so the teacher can get a higher pass rate on the exams. Shelly, you're not the first person to tell me that. You guys who are listening may be shocked. This isn't the first time I've heard this. The teachers have to get good grades on exams because that's how they're graded. That's how they're graded. And who's grading them? Federal government. Because the federal government is their boss, not you. The government is their customer, not your kid. Not you. Not your customer. You're in the way. All right. Tim, he's totally right. Trust teachers. Here's the worst thing. It's a little bit off on education, I know, but I want to make sure it's clear. In every state, we have a high bar for a teacher to be a teacher. Either we make them get degrees or pass tests or spend time teaching. I mean, it's hard to be, you got to bust your rump to be a teacher. Then the teacher busts their rump, cares about it, and think about how dedicated you've got to be, right? I'm not trying to pump teachers up, but I guess I am in a way because you've got to be dedicated, right? To go through all that crap so you can go teach. And now you get in the classroom, you're like, yes, I've done it. I'm a teacher now. I've done all this cool stuff. And now I get told what to do by the administrator for every single thing I do. Well, then why did you hire someone who went through all these things, who's dedicated, who's credentialed, who has experience? Why'd you hire that person if you're going to tell them what to do every day, every 5 minutes and give them instruction? It makes no sense. You shouldn't hire them then. Hire a high school graduate and just tell them what to do. If you're going to hire someone who's dedicated, credentialed, experienced, let them do their job. There is no way any private company would ever spend the money, time, and energy to get highly qualified people and then not let them do their job. That's only government. Only government will do that because government's job is to check a box, not to do the right thing. Hence, you have teacher burnout. Teachers are showing up saying, I want to make this stuff happen, and they can't. They're being told, what every step of the way what to do. So at one point they go, I'm done. I'm done. Absolutely. I agree with you. Every time the school district failed my mom, she would tutor children. Yes. Teachers have to pay so much to maintain the classroom already. Yes, Frank. Teachers are going crazy, and we wonder why they get burned out. It makes no sense. Yes. Expensive lawyers and interest groups. Common Core. Kevin, thank you for that one, right? Let me bring this up here. All right. What Kevin's talking about here is another big issue. One of the reasons why I'm so against centralized control of the school system is because it is a juicy target for special interests. Kevin is right on the money here. Think about it. If I make a sale of, say, Common Core to New York State, I just sold millions upon millions of books and cash oh my God, one cell and I made a killing. And then Jersey copies or California copies, billions of dollars. This is too juicy. But imagine if instead I had to hit each and every school district. Not so juicy anymore. No, not worth my time bribing administrators, not worth my time bribing congressmen, putting money in their accounts, lobbying these people, not worth my time and energy. I'm not going to lobby and bribe these guys, dropping $2-3 million to close 2 school districts. I'm losing money. But I must close 3 states and put $100 million in my pocket? Yes, I will absolutely do that. The more one big ticket brings a bunch of school districts all in line because bureaucrats force the issue because they have control by using the purse strings, which is what it is now. It's a juicy, juicy spot. And it literally is a breeding ground for corruption and for that kind of that Common Core and No Child Left Behind and every other bad policy that comes out. The system is set up like that, and you're completely correct. If we break that down, that begins to go away. The target isn't as juicy. And if the top guy or gal in Congress or at the governor's mansion or wherever doesn't have the power to enforce it, I've got to close every school district. Once I have that system, it makes much more sense to have a hub and to allow each school district to purchase what it wants separately, which means I can give more choice, more options, and things that don't work, people don't buy. Things that work, people stop buying. More people begin to copy that way. It changed the entire dynamic, which is what I want to do, which is why I keep talking about this stuff. So, yes. All right. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Part of my point was identifying through itemization taxes go to. Yeah, I think as a general rule, if we that would be a good idea as a general rule, but most people probably wouldn't pay attention. I think you see that often. People don't pay attention. I would rather create an environment to where the taxes are either used the right way or we don't even need taxes, right? My goal is to reduce the amount of taxes and keep reducing it. Here's the problem, and some of you guys are libertarians out there. I know some of you are Bernie supporters. Some of you are libertarians. I hope some of you are both. The average American can't imagine another way of funding these things. Like, it just hasn't come. If you watch in the press conferences, the media asks questions, and the questions are, how do we fund? How do we fund? Where do we get tax money? How does the government give? There's no concept of anything other than taxation or government. It doesn't exist in their heads. Our goal as libertarians, our goal in the liberty movement has to be to show them there are other ways of funding things besides taxation. Once that concept goes into their heads, now we can start reducing the taxes and showing other ways of doing it, right? That's the first step of doing it. And I remember when I was on Joe Rogan brought up the idea that he loved, which was the leasing naming rights on bridges. This is what made him think of everything else. This was the first thing for him. And many people, that idea, I hear people tell me about that idea all the time. Like, I'll be walking around and someone go, oh, Larry Sharpe, remember you. You're the naming rights on the bridge guy. Literally. Why do I love that so much? Is that the only way we do it? Of course not. But that's the idea going, maybe we don't need taxes. Yeah, maybe we don't. Maybe we can lower the taxes. Maybe that's possible. We could do it. We absolutely could. There's other ways of funding things without having taxes. So I agree with you conceptually. I would rather create an environment where people think, why am I being taxed, period? Why is that happening? Right? A lot of people get upset when I don't jump on the taxation is theft bandwagon. A lot of libertarians love taxation is theft. And I'm going to make some of you angry when I say this. It can't be theft if there's consent. Be very clear. If there's consent, it's not theft. If I go to you and say, hey, Shelly, do me a favor. Go put your hand in my pocket, pull out my wallet, grab $100 or whatever, take it, go buy something. If you put your hand in my pocket, take out $100, if I have $100, I hope I do. You pull out the $100, you go buy something, that's not theft. I told you you could take it. I said go, not theft. Even though you put your hand in my pocket, took out the money and spent it on something. It's not theft. I said you can have it. That's consent. The vast majority of Americans believe in their hearts that taxation is the only way to have a civilization. They can't imagine anything else. So they consent to taxation. Any way you look at that, whether you do polling data, surveys, there will be a certain percentage that will say we're taxed too much. Some will say that. Many won't. And I know that would drive libertarians. Your head's exploding now. I know it is. I know some of you are like, what? You get ready to turn off. Don't turn off. I'm just giving you truth here. Most Americans will say we're taxed enough. Some will actually, and you can do your own homework. Go Google this stuff if you want to. There's always a piece in the survey that say we're not taxed enough. Always a chunk. If the vast majority of Americans believe that they should be taxed and consent to taxation, for the vast amount of Americans, taxation can't be theft because they're consenting, which means we have a job to do, which is why you hear me yapping at 7 p.m. Eastern time almost every day. We have a job to do to get people to realize that they shouldn't be consenting. Because if they don't consent, then it's theft. But if they keep consenting, it's not theft. So we have a job to do. Some of you don't like that. I'm telling you the truth. They have to believe that. All right, let me keep going. I like this, right? Think sharp, vote sharp. There we go. I love that. Kevin, thank you, brother. You were coming up with good ideas, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Absolutely. So, let me see if I can keep going down the way here. Run down to Queens. Yes, Thruway. Yes, exactly. Taxes, of course. Yep. Hi from Asheville. I love Asheville, by the way. I had a buddy there who lived there for many years. I visited him many times. Love Asheville. It's a great place. All right, so let me go down one more if I could. I know I went through a bunch of them. I want to go through one more. I want to talk about eliminating medical debt. I said do two more quick. Medical debt is actually pretty quick. If we look about medical debt, we have to go to the healthcare system, which I covered last time. Now, Frank's asking about the healthcare system, and I'm sorry, but just if you want to head back last week, I did Feel the Burn Part 1. I covered the entire healthcare, 25 minutes on healthcare, fixing the healthcare issue, healthcare versus healthcare insurance. That's how we deal with medical debt. We fix the actual pieces and boom, we deal with the debt. It can go away. So that's why I want to cover that real fast. The next piece, though, is fair banking. Fair banking is tough. And I know people are worried about that. And here's the reality. One of the reasons, and there are many of them, I'm going to give you one. One of the reasons why civil asset forfeiture, which is the war on drugs, literally people, law enforcement taking money, works so well is because in poor communities, people don't trust banks. They don't trust them. They don't trust banks. Many of them are immigrants, or they do a lot of cash work. They don't know how banks work, all kinds of things, right? So they will carry cash. And of course, people in drug trade can't go to banks, so they carry cash. So how do you make fair banking? There are several things you have to do. And it's not about funding. It's not about laws. It's not. It really isn't. Number one, the biggest thing you can do to make banking fair is go back to when we had the Glass-Steagall Act. Some of you may not know what that is. In 1999, deregulating banks began in the 80s. Reagan began the deregulation. Clinton finished it off, right? It took about 20 years to deregulate banks to create the disaster that we have now. And the biggest issue, it is a cultural issue, guys, not a libertarian issue. It's a cultural issue. And that is, we took the line between savings and loan and investment bank and said they're the same. Now, in theory, should that be a problem? No, it shouldn't be in theory. But it is because culturally, in America, they have always been different, which means you would go to your local bank and get a mortgage, right? And you'd mortgage your house, or you'd buy maybe some insurance or something from your regular, your bank, something like that. When you did that, never would you think, I'm going to put my retirement fund or my mortgage into the market. No, that's for investment banks. Investment banks, they gamble, they roll the dice, they put stuff in the market, they do merger and acquisition activity, they do all kinds of things that investors do, and it's great, and they were two separate pieces. But as it began to change, the average American thought that their mortgage was safe. They believed that their products were safe, that their 401k Well, that's like my pension. That's safe. They didn't realize that once you break that down, now a bank makes a whole lot more money on investing and not on savings and loan. So they don't care about savings and loan anymore. They care about investing. If you guys were old enough, like me, my age, if you go back, you remember, they used to give you a gift if you opened up a savings account at a bank. I'm not making this up, you youngsters. Youngsters, I'm saying if you're like 30 or under to me, you're a youngster. You youngsters don't know this, right? You used to go to a bank account, open a bank account, and they give you a gift. Thank you for giving us some of your money. Here's a gift. Because that bank only did that. They didn't sell other products. They weren't about investments. They weren't giving you other products. That wasn't happening. They were savings and loan. They gave you a loan for like to own a car. They gave you a loan to buy your house. They gave you a loan for your farm. And they took your savings account and your checking account if you had one of those. That's all you had. That's what it was. And that's what it did. It was happy to get money. It wanted to get money so it could loan money out and make more money magically through that fractionalized banking garbage we do, right? That was its entire goal. That's all it did. And it cared about your dollars. It cared about your savings account and your checking account. Again, those who are old like me, you remember there's a time when I was young when you could get a CD, a certificate of deposit, for 2 years at 10% interest rate. 10%. Unheard of now. Unheard of. 10%? Oh my God. That actually existed when I was young. 10%. Crazy. Why? There were savings and loans. That's what they did. When my parents got a mortgage for their house in the 70s, 70s, said 14%. That was the mortgage percentage, 14%. Everything has changed. Once that wall came down, now retail banking gone to hell. Retail banking's all about getting you another loan, getting you another product, getting you another account, getting you more stuff, numbers. That is a relatively about a 20 to 25-year-old new thing. Another reason why we had our crash 2009 was that. Another one. Products. Yes. All you have to do is get rid of all these other unnecessary regulations and just have one simple thing. You must either be a savings and loan or an investment bank. Literally that simple. Once you do that, now I know my pension is not going to get lost in the market. My mortgage doesn't get lost in the market. My mortgage goes with a savings loan bank, unless you want to gamble. And again, your money. You want to put your money in the investment bank? Roll the dice. Your money. Good luck. Your choice. I have no problem with that. But you should know. But if you go back and look at the people who lost their homes in 2008, 9, and 10, the vast majority had no idea that their mortgage was in the market, because 30 years ago it wouldn't have been. 20 years before that, it wouldn't have been. It would have never happened. It's against the law. That wouldn't have happened. That was a scam that happened once that crashed. Once that crashed. And to Kevin's point, again, Kevin, you were rocking it tonight. That made the government take over the bank. That's what happened. That's how it worked. I don't believe that was the initial idea, but that's sure what happened. Absolutely. That's sure what happened. Absolutely. And that's how that began to happen. Just put that back and let the rest go. And you, as a consumer, now know you are dealing with an investment bank that's going to gamble with your money, put it in the market, do investments. Good on you if you're okay with that. No worries. Please do that. Your money. Do what you want. Or I'm a savings and loan. I'm pretty safe. Right? I'm a whole lot safer. I'm insured. Boom. Just like that. This is what we should do. But something else. We have to get rid of all these KYC laws. You guys may know what KYC laws is. It's know your customer laws. These are laws that supposedly save us from terrorists and drug dealers and all that stuff. And they don't. They just make it so hard that the small guy, it's too much for him or her. They don't bother getting accounts. They can't afford, the paperwork is too much. They don't get it. If you're an immigrant, you have no idea. If you come from a poor family or a family that never used banks, you would never do it. It takes 6 months, I'm exaggerating, to get a goddamn savings account. Because you got to get your firstborn and everything else, blah, blah. No, you don't need any of that. I have money. Here's my ID card account. That's how it used to work. Now it doesn't. Now they say, well, Larry, safety and terrorism. First off, they've had KYC, know your customer laws, since 9/11. Terrorism's over? No, they find other ways of funding their terrorist crap, And now we still are stuck with the regulations that make our life horrible. Terrorism didn't go away. Drug dealing didn't go away. UBS literally launders money for drug cartels twice. Not once. They got caught once, then did it again and got caught again. They're probably doing it now because it's so lucrative. They pay a small fine and keep doing it. Again, I'm making this up. Do your own homework. So KYC, know your customers, are stupid. They hurt the poor. They hurt those who don't know any better. And here's the worst part. If you lie on those forms because you don't know any better or make a mistake, they can punish you now. It's a felony. So you come out of some poor area, some barrio, the hood, trailer park, insert place there where you don't know much about because you're not taught anything about it. You don't know how to bounce a checkbook. This high school didn't teach you. Your parents haven't had bank accounts. You don't know how to do it. So now you go there, you fill out some paperwork, you make a mistake, and the cops come. I'm not joking. That happens. That happens. Of course you don't trust banks. Of course you don't trust banks. You want fair banking? Stop, know your customer laws. Put that line in between both sides. And if you want to, I don't mind, you can let the post office have basic banking. This part, I'm totally okay with Bernie Bros, as long as one thing happens. Number one, no subsidies to the post office. Don't give the post office an advantage to other banks. Just make it, if they want to, have a bank. And the reason why is, again, many people from poorer communities, they will trust a government bank over a non-government bank just because it has U.S. Postal Service on it. And if that will get people to use banking services, as long as there's no subsidies, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. That makes someone decide, you know what? I feel more comfortable. I'm going to put my cash here because I trust the post office. And that's true for many people, particularly immigrant families. Let them do it. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. No worries. Use the bank you want to use. If you use investment banks, go ahead. You don't. Next, we have to have total transparency in lending. That's it. Simplified, total transparency in lending. And we actually don't. We have silly rules that make no sense, that confuse people. There's transparency, right? People get mad. This is predatory lending, payday loans. Remember those ideas? Yeah. So what happens if you can't get a payday loan? Loan shark. I'm not joking. Loan shark. So the government says no more predatory lending. Instead, go to Joey. Oh, that's racist. And I'm sorry. Go to Bob. That's a non, right? Bob. Go to Bob. I'm sorry, Bob, if you're Bob. Go to Bob the loan shark, right? Whatever. I want to be fair to people. There's bad guys in every group of people. So anyway, your name is Bob today. So they go to Bob, and he's the loan shark. And when you go to him and you don't pay him, he breaks your legs, or he, firebombs your car, or whatever. I don't know, whatever bad loan sharks do now. Whatever, the appropriate loan shark bad thing. They do that instead. That's your answer? Be transparent. Do that. Allow banks to do what they do. Allow microloans. Allow all those things. Microloans would exist if it was just a savings and loan. But it's not. It is an investment bank. So nobody cares about the little guy. So there's no services for the little guy. If you've noticed in banks now, to have an account, if it's below a certain amount, right, they charge you. So you have no money, so they charge you more money. But you don't have enough money. That's why you're getting charged more money. Why? An investment bank. That's why. Instead, savings and loan, you wouldn't need payday loans. Remember, they didn't have payday loans in the past. It didn't exist. Why? Because your savings and loan bank could give you a loan. Remember, I got a loan from a bank in the 80s for like $4,000 or something like that. I forgot, $3,000, whatever it was. I got a loan. Yeah, $3,000 loan. Why? Because that's what you did. They were a savings and loan. That's how they made money. You want to have fair banking. Allow the post office to be a bank if it wants to be. No subsidies at all, but let it exist if it wants to make people feel safer to use it. Get rid of all these regulations, KYC laws, not required. Just put Glass-Steagall and let people know transparently. Is it an investment bank? Is it a savings and loan? Do that. You will actually get fair banking. Note, no more taxes, no extra laws, nothing. In fact, I'm removing it and making safer and better for poor communities. In every single idea I came up with that we've talked about today, in every one, poor communities got the same or better service. No extra taxes and no extra laws and no rules. It's a really good idea. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I bugged the hell out of you. Many of you I did. Please, guys, do me a favor. Like, comment, and share this. I get it. If you guys have some extra cash, if some of you in the right spot where you have some cash, go to patreon.com/sharpeway. Throw me a couple bucks. Throw me $5, $10 a month so I can keep doing this. Support this show. Support us moving forward. If you want to do that, please do that right now. Heading over there. If you go, Larry, I'd love to, but I lost my job or I'm scared I'm going to lose my job. I get it. You don't have the cash. Don't worry. Like, comment, and share is free. Do that instead. Head over to Sharpe Way Twitter. Click that like on the Sharpe Way Twitter, not Larry Sharpe Twitter, Sharpe Way Twitter. Heading over to Sharpe Way YouTube, not Larry Sharpe YouTube, Sharpe Way YouTube. Click on that also. Follow that and also click on the Sharpe Way with Larry Sharpe Facebook page. Click and like that too. That's free. Do that right now. Don't wait. Yes, I'll be doing another one of these. I'll be covering more things because what I believe in my heart this year, and I hope you guys in the Liberty Movement get this. This absolutely is a time for us to reach out to the Bernie supporters who they've lost their leader, right? The Democratic Party destroyed their leader. Most of these people, and I hope that many of you understand this, most of these people actually don't want socialism. They just want fairness. And they've been taught their entire life the way to get that is socialism. If we can show them you can have fairness without socialism, many of them will come to us. It isn't the socialism they want. It is the fairness that they want. They just don't believe they can get it any other way. But they can. We can show them they can come to us. How do I know this? Guys, you guys remember when I ran for governor? My media chief was a former Bernie guy. This can work. These people were Bernie people. Some people, look, some are socialists and that's all they want. They're not going to come to us. I get it. We can't get them all. I got it. You're right. Some of you are like, but my guy, that guy's not going to come to us. I'm with you. But a lot of people just want the outcome. They don't care how we get there. If we show them a way, we can actually make that work. So I want to say thank you guys again. Please like, comment, and share. As always, like me on Facebook, Twitter, and if you can, throw me a couple bucks. I will see you guys here tomorrow. And next week, I am going to do part 3 because there's a lot to Bernie. We will get them if we try. Have a good night.